Hello and welcome to the Modern Mystery School UK EU podcast and YouTube channel. And we are joined by the lovely Dawn. How are you, Dawn?
I'm doing great. Thank you. How are you?
Very good. I feel like I want to call it Miracle Monday because
Oh, yeah.
Miracle Monday because we've just spoken to the lovely Barbara about her miracle. And now I'm going to speak to you about your amazing book.
Yes, I'm excited.
Ancient Healings and Modern Miracles.
So many miracles to share. It's amazing.
I know, and it's wonderful. So, Dawn, tell us a little bit about your background because some people won't know you here. This is going out to perhaps people who don't know what you do and your background. And can you give us a little bit of your background and how you came to write this book?
Sure. Yeah, I would love to. Well, I am currently a guide and a healer and a teacher with the Modern Mystery School, but I wasn't always very spiritual. I spent about 20 years of my career in the tech field, and that's a very, logical, methodical, just the facts kind of environment that I worked in for a long time. So when I first found out about the work with the Modern Mystery School, I was a little skeptical, to be honest with you. But I kept hearing these stories of how other people had healed. And at that time, I really needed a lot of healing myself. I had a generalized anxiety disorder, and I had a lot of phobias, and I just in general was not happy. So I was kind of willing to try it, but I was still skeptical. And the fruits of this path are so evident. It just became obvious to me that even though I didn't understand 100% why everything worked, especially in the beginning, it just worked. And so I kept going, and now I'm a guide and I help other people find this path. The reason I wrote this book is honestly for people who were like me, who are seeking healing. They don't know that all the solutions are out there that could help them. Some of them are desperate. I mean, I know I was desperate for solutions, and people need hope right now. There's a lot of negativity in the world. There's a lot of despair, a lot of apathy. And this book is true. These are true stories of people who have overcome amazing things in their life, triumphs, victories. And I think people need to know about this. Like, this does not need to be a best kept secret. This should be something that everybody knows about, and at least has the option to experience.
Now, in the book, how many stories are there and how did you select them? Because I know that there are lots to select from. So
Yeah.
was there a selection process and such like?
Well, there's 24 stories in the book, and two of them actually are my own stories of how I overcame anxiety disorder and how I overcame codependency, the pattern that I had in relationships. So there's those two stories, and then I have some stories in there from my personal clients, the things I saw happen in their lives that were amazing to me, and those are anonymized with their permission, though I've shared them. And then I solicited stories from other guides and healers in the Modern Mystery School. Their own stories and their client stories are featured here. So basically the selection process was just open it up to people who knew about these miracles and then allow them to send them to me. And then me and my editor went through and selected the ones that we ended up in the final draft.
And could you tell us a little bit about maybe the range of miracles that have happened, in the book? Because, when some people think about healing, they often think, oh, well, I don't need any healing, or healing is not going to help me in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
But from my own direct experience and working with many people, actually, healing and light helps all situations. So sometimes, I think it's good to have a reminder of the different range of things that can be helped.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good point, because I probably wouldn't have thought that some of these things were considered healing either before I found this path. And so some of the stories in this book are about people like finding their purpose, getting their dream job, finding the love of their life. Some of them are about things that people would generally consider healing, physical healing, overcoming physical disease and conditions. But there's also a lot of mental health things that people went through. And then recovery from addiction is another big category. And then finding yourself spiritually. So these are the range of stories that are in the book. And it is true that sometimes people might not think, oh, I need healing in order to find the love of my life, right? Just as an example, or my dream job. But a lot of times there's blocks within us that are preventing us from finding those things, recognizing those things, or calling them into our lives. And so that's where the healing comes in.
It's so true, isn't it? That we don't realize that sometimes those repeated patterns in our life are actually from something that needs attention and something that's, it needs healing. And, one of the Hermetic principles, so within, so without, and our whole life is a reflection of our inner world. And I always used to say my life used to represent the battleground that I was going through. In my mind, it was like a battleground inside and outside. And now my life is very peaceful and very quiet, through my choosing. I would have probably noted that as quite boring 20 years ago, but but actually it's, it's actually perfect place to be. And so that this is really interesting because people can look at these stories, and I know that they will relate to a whole range of people. So this, I want people to have an understanding that this book is for everybody.
It is, yeah. I know that there's some story in this book of the 24 that anyone could pick up and either relate to themselves or relate to a loved one. Because they're so relatable. And these are general human experiences that so many of us go through are in this book. So yeah, absolutely.
And so some, without giving lots away, but each of these stories have the people in the stories, have they received a mix of healings or taken classes, or is it people that are that just walk the path or the initiatory path? How is it, kind of across the board?
Yeah, it's a good question because our lineage has so many modalities and it's so comprehensive. And I wanted the book to really really explain that aspect of our lineage, of how comprehensive it is, but also that you can get results just from one thing called the life activation. So the stories actually represent people who have only had their life activation and gotten amazing results, to people like you and I who are guides in the Modern Mystery School and have actually received many initiations on the path. So there's a wide range. But the thing that I love about this lineage is that there's something for everyone here. And you will get results even if you just do the life activation. But the more, in my personal experience, as well as what the book I think also relays, is that the more that you do, the more results you get, the more fruits you get.
That's so good to know. Yeah. And I think that's an important point, that, because some people get overwhelmed and think, oh my goodness, I've got to do all of these things to get, to heal, even though it isn't like that. It's actually very easy once you're kind of going, getting your healing step by step.
Yeah.
However, I think also it's good for somebody to know that they can do this one thing, just get this one thing done, and then let's see.
Yeah.
Let us, and I think that for me has been the number one thing that I always share with people is come and have the life activation, sample the energy, see if it's something that is a good fit for you, and just experience it, because I know 100% that it will transform somebody's life.
Exactly. And I was in the same position, when I received my life activation. I was like, well, I'll do this one thing, but it needs to prove itself to me before I do anything else. And so I waited a year before I did Empower Thyself initiation, but by then it had proven itself to me. So I'd love to share a couple stories from the book of people who have only had their life activation, just the highlights.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so there's Davis. So he was actually, it's quite traumatic, the story of just what a life activation can do. He was addicted to meth and heroin. And he had one life activation and started to snap out of it a little bit, and didn't completely stop using, but at least was able to like start to pull himself out of it. And then he received a second life activation. And after that second life activation, he actually checked himself into rehab and then has been clean now for 6 years. So this is a quite dramatic story.
Incredible.
He didn't do anything else, that would have contributed to the results. So that's one person. And then there's another story in here of, let's see, which one I want to share is Julia's story. So this one is called Finding Her Purpose as the Matriarch of the Family. So she was in her 60s and retired. And a lot of people, when they retire, they're in that transition phase where they're not quite sure, what do I do with the rest of my life? I want to still be productive, right? And she was in that phase. So she had her life activation. And then she recognized after that she didn't need to work in order to contribute. So she started connecting much more with her children and her grandchildren, and her relationships with her family blossomed. Her family started coming to her more and more for support. They became much closer. One of her grandsons was a teenager who had a hard time opening up to anyone. And all of a sudden, after her life activation, he opened up to her in ways that he didn't even open up to his own parents. So he felt something from her that wasn't there before. And then it created this close bond. So I know that's, it doesn't have to be someone who's young in order to experience the results of these modalities. You could be at any age and still, improve your life.
Incredible. I just love that. And I love that you took the time to document this, because this is quite a mammoth task, isn't it? Putting them all together and getting it all organized.
Yes. Well, I have to thank the forward author, Dr. Carla Weiss. She wrote an incredible forward to the book, and also the contributors. And you are one of them, by the way.
Yes,
Would you like to talk about the story that you contributed? I could, but I think you'd be better off talking about it.
I had the permission of my client, and she suffered with a very, very, very awful skin condition, and it was, very visible. And I suggested that maybe we could do the Ensophilic Ray 3-session protocol. And I said, look, I don't know what the results are going to be. Let's just see. And she was willing. And somehow, I'm not sure how, but we took a photo at the beginning. I don't know why we did that. We just took a photo at the beginning of her body. And after 2 sessions, after the 2 weeks, after the 3 sessions, because they're seven days apart, it practically all disappeared. And that's actually in the book. The photos are in the book. And 4 or 5, I think we were, I saw her recently, and I think we worked it out. It was 4 or 5 years down the line, and she's never had to have a top up or anything. It's still gone. It's incredible.
Yeah. It is miraculous, as the title of the book implies. And really, these stories are miraculous. So, the amazing thing about healing that I wanted to also mention is that the healing that we have as individuals creates a huge ripple effect on the world, right? It creates a ripple effect on our family, our community, and humanity in general, because as we heal these issues, we're helping to heal them in the collective. So that's another reason why I really wanted these stories out there, because I wanted people to really understand the power of healing, not for themselves, but also for their families. And some of the stories really do indicate how much one person getting a life activation, for example, can affect others.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. And thank you so much for putting this book together. Now, where can people purchase the book?
The best place to get it is on Amazon. So this is the hard copy, and it is available on Amazon. And then there's also the Kindle version available if you prefer digital. I like, personally, the physical, because I think it really helps to anchor the energy in the physical. But if you are, if you want a Kindle version, it's also available and, convenient.
Amazing. I absolutely love it. And I feel like there'll be a second book because there's so many more
There's
miracles
so
that
many
you
more
have.
stories to share.
I know there's so many more, and it's just a wonderful thing. Thank you so much for all your efforts to collate and make sure that this is documented, because as you say, often it's hearsay or people in passing, and and to have it all written down and people to be able to express their stories and have it in a format that's going to be there forever, I just think is just tremendous. And thank you for taking the time to do that.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you for being a part of it.
Oh, my pleasure. And we have somebody who's commented, Jennifer. She said, the Modern Mystery School has changed my life. I've searched 54 years to find answers, and I've changed more in the past 9 months than I ever before in my life. So she's saying
How
thank you.
amazing.
Yeah, it's tremendous. We're very fortunate that we all found the path and that we're able to share it with others. And thank you for helping others see this, and others, be able to pick up the book, because I feel sure it's going to inspire a lot of people to come and just, try the life activation or try a class and see how they go.
Yeah, I certainly hope so.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kate.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.